Hi everyone, today we're going to be assembling the excellent little medium tank, the M14 used by the Italian army in North Africa. As you can see, we've got quite a simple frame here, broken down into two halves. We've got on the left hand side the tracks, hull and some of the stowage and accessory items, and over on the right side we've got the M14 turret and casemate for the Avanti. We'll start by assembling the hull. We'll attach the left and right tracks to the hull. As you can see, the tracks are keyed, so we've got 3 notches on one side and 2 on the other. This will help you make sure that you get them on the right sides. Just put a few spots of glue on and attach the tracks. The keying on both sides is nice and tight, so you can actually get a good push fit. This will help you once you put the glue in there to make sure that the tracks don't go anywhere while you're waiting for them to dry. Next up, we'll attach the upper hull. As you can see, there are a couple of points where the plastic is fed into the upper hull. You want to make sure you clean off these feeds completely, otherwise it won't sit cleanly to the lower hull. Just go and run a bead of glue, as you see me doing here. Then it'll just sit nicely on top of the lower hull. Next up, we'll attach the rear part of the engine or the hull. Once again, you can just run some glue around it. This is quite a tight fit. You'll actually hear a nice sort of click as it goes in. Alright, this is the lower hull basically completed, barring adding on the spare wheels. These attach on the back. Now if you have a look on the underside of them, you'll notice that they're keyed so that they sit nicely on the upper surface of the rear hull. The keying is done in such a way that the wheels will sit on an angle, so just make sure to dry fit it first to make sure you've got the wheel orientated the correct way. With the hull complete, we can now go on to the upper surfaces. Up to this point, the assembly is the same for both the M14 and the Avanti. So first up we have the casemate kind of section. Now there's feeds here as well. You have to make sure you give these a really good clean. These should be completely flush with the plastic, otherwise it won't sit properly. It's important to just dry fit this piece before gluing it, just to make sure that you have got the feeds completely cleaned up. Once you're ready, you can just run a bit of glue around. As you can see here, I'm just kind of running a bit of glue on those surfaces at the front, just to give the plastic something to grab hold of. Now next up, we'll add the hull machine gun. This is keyed so you can't glue it on sideways. And once we've attached this, that's your lower hull completely finished. So next up, we'll assemble the turret. The turret's made up of the 2 halves, the gun, the hatch, the machine gun and the peg. Once again, you want to be careful that you've cleaned off your feeds, the front and rear of the upper turret piece. You've got a nice ledge there that you can just run your glue along. That'll help bond the 2 pieces together nicely. Next up we'll add the hatch. There's two hatch options, there's an open hatch and a closed hatch. You can just put a couple of drops of glue inside the hatch cavity and then drop the either version in. You'll notice that it's keyed so that you get it in the right way. After the hatch, we'll add the gun. Just like the machine gun on the front of the hull, it's keyed as well, so you can easily glue that in. No chance of gluing it in sideways. Next up we'll glue the machine gun to the top of the turret. There's a nice hole there for the mount of the machine gun to easily fit into. Like a Bren gun, the magazine is on the top of the gun. Last but not least, we'll add the turret pin. Alternatively, you can always use magnets for this instead. There we have it, an M1441 turret and hull completely assembled.